ancient Hindu priests were doing a ritual, making offerings into the sacred fire. They were making this ritual because they wanted to know something they didn't know before. They wanted to know which of the Hindu gods should be worshipped first. There are so many Hindu gods, which one should be worshipped first? So they did an offering, a sacred fire ritual, to the ancient god Shiva. Seated in lotus posture in the Himalayas, he's the great yogi, he's Yogeshwara. He represents perfectly balanced mind, undeviating consciousness. But his consciousness was interrupted by this request from the priests, which traveled to him by the psychic Wi-Fi. And he thought, well, it's a great question, and I know the answer, but I bet you, as any good man knows, my wife will know. So he went to his wife Parvati and said, okay, what should we do? And Parvati, the goddess, said, well, maybe you should be one of our sons. And Shiva said, yes, that sounds great, but which one? We have 2 sons. Well, my dear, let them earn it. Yes, let them earn it, but how? How about a contest? Okay, what kind of contest? How about a race? Yes, a race. Around what? And Parvati said, let them race around the world. The entire world. And so, the 2 sons of Shiva, Ganesha, made famous by The Simpsons, red elephant-headed god, and Kartikeya. These 2 sons of Shiva were set to race. They weren't the same, they're very different. Kartikeya was valorous. He was the general of the army of the gods. Ganesha was slower, rounder, more intelligent, more thoughtful. He was Lord of Wisdom. Kartikeya rides a peacock, swift and fast and proud. Ganesha's vehicle is a mouse. It's a long story for another day. So, on your mark, probably in Sanskrit. Get set, gotcha, go. Kartikeya was off into the horizon, whirling himself around the globe. And Ganesha had a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of panic. I can't win. Well, what is this? Obviously, Mother has favored my brother. He's valorous and swift. I'm slow and steady. But I must do something. So, he took a deep breath. He was versed in yogic breathing, apparently. And he asked for inspiration. He decided to go around his parents. He went around them once, twice, 3 times. Perfectly at peace. Then by this time, Kartikeya came swishing back, huffing and puffing. I won, so excited. Shiva was giving him a high five. Good job, son. Let's crown you first among the gods. But the mother said, Parvati said, the goddess said, wait a minute. Let's check in with Ganesha first. Yeah, we'll go on with the party. Let's check in. So, they said, Ganesha, why did you not go anywhere? Why didn't you do anything? Ganesha said, look, I was a little bit excited, I was nervous, I was agitated, I was having all this mental baggage. But I centered myself. I took a deep breath, and inspiration came. And I decided to go around you both, because you, Father, are the Father of the world, and Mother is the Mother of the world. Upon first time going around, I realized you, Father, are the Spirit of all things. On the second time, I saw that Mother is the form, the shape, the energy of all things. And the third time around, my mind was blown. I saw that matter was spirit, spirit was matter. You were both the 2 sides of the same cosmic coin. I am you, you are me. I'm content with this revelation that we are all one. Please crown my brother. With this, Kartikeya was deflated and said, this crown belongs to Ganesha, not I, because I went around this perishable world, this false world, this world of social media and smartphones, this distracting world which adds agitation to the mind. Ganesha was able to center himself and encircle life everlasting, the spirit within. And so this is a story about how Ganesha was crowned first among the gods. This is a story that, at my students' behest, there's a recent book I've written called The Stories Behind the Poses. I decided to pull some of the screenshots just to save some Googling. But, that's the image from the book. I used the story of Ganesha for Siddhasana, or yogic posture. Because it's not just a posture of stability outwardly. Siddhasana, when perfected, is a psychic posture. It's a posture of consciousness. It's a posture of full mental wellness, wholeness, balance, grounding. Now you can take this and apply it on many levels. Yes, of course, without question, doing asanas will affect your awareness. But also the story of Ganesha and Kartikeya is a story of me and you and every human under the sun. There's part of us that's ready to go, jump into action, be pulled by the Facebook likes, be pulled by etc., 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 and have our mind be pulled into all the stimuli with which we have to cope in these times. And then part of us, if we listen carefully, is the seed of wisdom is Ganesha. Grounded well-being. The stories of ancient India hold profound spiritual truths. It is actually one of my areas of expertise, ancient Indian Sanskrit texts, narrative texts, the Puranas, and the epics. I'll share a brief vignette from another story, and then I'll bring it home. Stories teach you when you least expect it. These themes will stay in the back of your brains for some time. Very, very, very famous story, perhaps one of the most famous in all of Indic thought and wisdom. The story that frames the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of the Lord, the Hindu Bible, this sacred Shastra, full of exquisite philosophical teachings, but those teachings aren't just out of nowhere on a shelf. They're in a storied context. They're being told by Arjuna, being told by Krishna to Arjuna. Why? Most of you will know this tale. Arjuna is not well. He's reeling with grief, with anxiety, with panic. His mouth is dry, it's parched, his hairs bristle. He slumps down. He's the greatest archer of all time, trained. No higher duty is there than this moment of cosmic war. And yet, Achyuta is slumped, can't function. Why? Because of his emotional state. All the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are geared towards rendering mental health onto Arjuna. And the very first teaching he gives is, look, I know you're upset, but listen. You're upset, you think you're doing the right thing by renouncing, but no. That's not the way. I know you're parroting wisdom, but you're not wise. How do I know you're not wise? You're upset. You're grieving. And then he starts. The wise do not grieve for the living or the dead. Because never was there a time when I was not, when you were not, or these kings of earth were not. And never will there be a time when we cease to be. Part of the function of Indian wisdom traditions is to remind us in the chariot of life, to remind us at the time of war, to remind us in the battle of life, that life is more than meets the eye, that life is more than our opponent in front of us, that beyond the play of the outer, there is a space of inner stillness. There is a space of wisdom. There is a space that we can resort to and find and cultivate. And that space has pristine mental and emotional health. Part of the challenge that we face in the modern world is that we've become superbly skilled at the material and measuring the material, and this is excellent. Someone is having a heart episode, they get some stents, they live 30 more years, glory to the gods. But what the ancients knew, and what any human being knows who pays attention to their being, is that we are much more than a physical self. We are much more than matter. We are much more than that which can be measured, and yet the measurements need to continue. We are more than a physical self. We are an emotional self. We are a mental self. We are a spiritual self. The ancient Indians have theorized this in various ways. None of the details are important. I'll happily take your questions for the specialists and students among you. But what I'm sharing with you is something that human beings have been, wisdom that has been of use to human beings for millennia. Anxiety and turmoil is not new. War is not new under the sun. It may be that we have much to learn from the wisdom of the ancients about who and what we are, and the path to peace and wellness that involves turning inward and understanding and experiencing that the human being is much more than meets the eye. I promise to stay 10 to 15 minutes, and with that I close. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raj. We'll move on right on to invite Dr. Goulet to the microphone. Point to the microphone, Dr.
Dr. Varga, ladies, Svecha, one of our leading psychiatrists in our community. She's at Cabbage for 20 years. As we know, Cabbage is a very prestigious place. She's always here with us. We have an Ayurvedic clinic, which is run by Dr. Varma. But mental health is such an important topic, as you know, Minister. And I think the government of Ontario has given quite a bit of money towards mental health and addiction. And I defer to the psychiatrist here that most mental health is treated by drugs. Either to make you sleep, or to make you wake, or to make you sleep long, or to wake long. And I feel that there is a place for a non-tablet-like medication for mental health. If we go into YouTube and we look at Sri Ravi Shankar, where he got people who were addicted in Denmark, I'm talking, not Hindus. These are people who are non-Hindus, white people, like the minister, who were addicted to alcohol and to drugs, and he could have helped them. Minister, with your help, I would like to start, and I will ask Dr. Suvercha to meet us, Mr. Chair to meet us, to do a research and to see, and let us do a good meta-analysis and trial where we can have placebo type of therapy and or meditation and other type of therapy, and see how we can help these patients with addiction and mental health. It's because of mental health people go to addiction. Because they can't find happiness somewhere, they go to addiction. And if we can somehow get a methodology where we can get these people off drugs, and we would like to do a research here where we can get we get a grant, we can get more people, and let us see an alternative. We all know about alternative medicine now. That's a big thing, right, Suvercha? Alternative medicine is a big thing, except the psychiatry. What is a big thing all of disciplines of medicine? Because, you know, psychotherapy, people in America, it's a fashion that, oh, who's your therapist? I have my therapist. I have to go to my therapist. Is that right, young lady? That's how you make a living in Mexico. So it is important, again I ask you, Minister, to see how you can help us. This Ayurvedic clinic, when we opened it, we were treating people for free. We have lines of people. But as soon as we tell them to pay $25, everybody said they have OHIP and they go to the doctor. And what did the doctor give them? Antidepressants or stimulants, and because OHIP, it is free for OHIP, but and OHIP pay the drugs, and these pharmaceutical drugs, Minister, as you very well know, are very expensive. And the pharmaceutical company would be totally against us for doing something where we can obviate the use of their drugs. And this is why we need your help more than anything else. This is the only place that I know of that we can try something new. But it's up to your judgment, you will make a decision after you find out more, investigate more. But this is my pitch to you, not my pitch, my plea to you, that if not here, somewhere else, let's do some research to see how we can help people. You agree with that, Samantha?
Maybe I'll say something.
No, but you support, you don't agree with me, right?
What is that?
You agree with me or you don't agree with me?
Well, we support research, yeah. We support research.
I'm talking about not using drugs. For all these drugs that you use for these people, you make them sleep too long. So without talking, see, on Sundays, the mic is mine. And I still think I'm upstairs. That's why it took so long. But without further ado, my job is to introduce this to God's speakers. The Minister of Mental Health and Addiction, the Honorable Tibollo, speakers.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you for allowing me to come and speak this afternoon. I want to start off by apologizing. I was in Vaughan Woodbridge, the area that I represent, and there was an Italian event that they said started at 10:45 and it would be finished by 11 o'clock.
Italian Day.
Exactly, it was Italian time. So because we are the same.
Exactly what I was saying, why we not be starting at Indian Standard Time, because we're supposed to start.
So I think it was the same thing.
We understand.
But I apologize for that because I do like to be on time. The work that I do is extremely interesting to me. My background, I was a practicing lawyer before coming to this job, and I ran a center that looked after men with addictions. It was a residential therapeutic community that ran for 24 months. The individual would come in and they would spend 24 months with us. So the first 6 months we used to try to figure out what was wrong, because you're right, most of the time, I have yet to meet the exception, so I should say all of the time, there's an underlying mental health issue that led to the addiction. So the first thing we did was spend 6 months trying to figure out what went wrong, because something went wrong somewhere, whether it was an attachment issue in the family, whether it was trauma induced by an experience in early childhood, whether it was whatever it was, but there's always something that underlies the mental health issue or the addiction issue. So I worked in the center for 10 years. I became certified as an addictions counselor, and I'm actually doing my doctorate in clinical psychology now with a focus on addictions and concurrent disorders, utilizing the therapeutic community. But one of the things that I discovered in the work that I was doing during that 10-year period was the amount of gaps that exist in the system. I started to realize that many cultures were not interested or were looking for ways, because of the stigmatization associated with addictions or mental health, they were not interested in talking about problems in the family. And so the cultural issues became very prominent in terms of the work that I was doing. I had to build that trust. And how do you build trust when you're not from that particular community? And all communities, there isn't a community in this province that doesn't have issues within the community with individuals, whether it's mental health or addictions. So I decided to put my career as a lawyer on hold. I left the job that I had practicing law, I ran the addictions center for $1 a year because the government was doing nothing to help organizations that are community-based. And so in order to hire more people, I decided to run the organization myself, and that allowed me to hire, as a result of a $1 a year salary, to hire more addictions counselors so that I actually was able to treat 60 individuals at any one time. And that center continues to run today. I left because I needed to advocate for not just that organization, but all organizations that are community-based, all alternatives that are evidence-based and are important to provide care to people from all cultures. Because again, one of the things, it's very difficult for someone who's not South Asian to have a client that's South Asian and to try to understand some of the family issues and some of the reasons behind why perhaps there's an addiction or how to deal with a mental health issue. So I came to government, and of course the job that I wanted was the job that I have now, but it didn't exist. So they made me the Solicitor General of the province, and I was responsible for all the police, firefighters, first responders, our corrections officers. And I knew there were big problems there. Those problems all relate to the kind of work they do and how difficult it is for them to be able to cope with the trauma, the moral injury, and ultimately the PTSD that comes with the kind of work that they do. So we work really hard. We are now in the process of building a center of excellence that will focus specifically on first responders and their mental health. And you can appreciate, having lost 4 police officers in the last month, this is certainly an area that needs to have more support and more work. And I'm really pleased and proud that the Premier supported this and that we will be building a center that will look after not just day programming, but also the longer term kind of programming, and the most important part, support for the families. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to any mental health issue or any addiction issue, you have to support the family in addition to supporting the individual. And so from there, I stayed in that position for a while. I did what I needed to do there. And then they made me the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport, which was excellent because it gave me the opportunity to go to all the communities around the province and talk about the importance of language. He gave me the ability to talk about the importance of culture. Why? Not just to celebrate the beautiful aspects of who each one of us are in our communities, but it gave me the opportunity to talk to individuals about their mental health. The importance of rooting your children by providing them an insight into your culture, not just from the music and the dance, but from the language. And the importance of maintaining that language to maintain the culture alive. And I truly believe that if we are going to make a difference in this world, if we are going to truly help individuals, Canada gives us an amazing opportunity to respect each other's cultures, to learn from each other's cultures, to share in them, and as a result of that, make us stronger. And I mean stronger, and again, not just from the standpoint of being together, but also from the standpoint of our mental health with each other. So these are very important principles for me. So from tourism, I went back to the Premier and I said to him, you know, Premier, I love this job, but I'm getting old and I didn't come here to have a good time. You know, as the Minister of Tourism, you get to go to all the events. I don't drink, so it was kind of a bit of it wasn't the best job I guess it could have been, because I could have certainly enjoyed it more if I had some of those vices, but I don't. And so I need to do something that's going to make a difference. And for me, with my background in mental health, I became the first Minister for Mental Health and Addictions in the province of Ontario. And I share that responsibility with a few other provinces that have ministers. Our Premier recognized the need to have someone responsible for that. And with that, I got a budget of $3.8 billion to invest over 10 years. We're now investing $525 million on an annual basis. And you'd say, well, that's a lot of money to be investing. It is, but it's been a long time that money has not been invested in mental health. It's been a long time that we prioritized mental health as being an underlying issue that needs to be addressed. You know, the Premier always says to us in cabinet, and he says it outside all the time, you know, we need 380,000 people today to get to work because we have so many jobs and so much work available. And I'm always the one to say, Premier, you know, especially with my colleagues as well, you're 100% right. We need to bring more people. We need more immigration. We need more skill training. We need more children understanding that there's capacity for them to be whatever they want to be because the work is there. I said, but stop for a moment and think about this. 200,000 people every week don't go to work because of a mental health or addiction issue. Last year, 3,000 people died as a result of an opioid overdose. 30% of those, 900 of them, were men who work in the construction industry. So these are not homeless people. These are not people without a good job, without a good income to be able to do, and families and the ability to do whatever they want to do. So what's happening? What's happening? If we truly want to have an effective workforce, we need to invest in making sure that people are healthy. And let's face it, not only healthy physically, because it's important to look after your organs, it's important to look after your physical well-being, but you have to remember, you got to take care of your mind. And I can tell you, and there's psychiatrists, there's people here that understand and have seen this. I've met many people that I'm having a conversation with them, they're in the best of their physical shape, and then I get a phone call that that person committed suicide. We lose people every day that are in the finest physical form, but something wasn't working with their minds. So the Premier gives me the opportunity. I start writing the Roadmap to Wellness, and in March of 2020, which is another date that you probably all remember really well, I go to Ontario Shores and I launch the Roadmap to Wellness. I get one question. And the rest of the questions, because you'll recall March of 2020, around the middle of March, was when we declared COVID-19 a pandemic. So all the work that I did to create this incredible document was cast to the side because our focus became COVID-19. Now remember, we had a mental health and addiction crisis before the pandemic. It became exacerbated as a result of the pandemic. And we're continuing to live outcomes today as a result of that COVID-19 pandemic. So we still have a crisis when it comes to mental health and addictions. And the investments that we're making are triggered or based on trying to create those continuums of care. So the Roadmap to Wellness for me was an extremely important document. It was a document that laid out the path of the future of the province when it came to investments. I wanted to look at the lifespan so that we were providing the proper services to individuals in the time frame of when the services were needed. So under the age, so 0 to 12, from birth to the age of 12, 12 to 24, 24 to 45, 45 to 65, and 65 and over. The psychiatrists will understand, or the doctors will understand why those are relevant from a developmental standpoint. Next question I had was, well, let's look at the model of how we deliver services. Right now, all our services, or the bulk of our services, come from acute care hospitals, and they're trying to do the work that really should be done in the community. Now, that is a topic in and of itself, and I don't want to bore you with all the details, but let's just say our investments have to be in community-based treatment, because the bulk of the issues that we have to deal with can be dealt with outside of the acute care hospitals, right? About 5% belong in acute care. The rest of those cases can be dealt with. So when we deal with an eating disorder, when we're dealing with an addiction, when we're dealing with a lot of the mental health issues relating to anxiety and depression, those are things that can be dealt with in community. So that was important to me, to build a step care model, to integrate that system, identify where the gaps were, use data that we collect as a result of the investments that are being made to determine the best places to make further investments to ensure that continuum of care is there. And the most important piece, and where I'm going to bring you back now, is why I'm here today, is that the most important part, what I've just said is extremely important, but the most important part that overlays on everything that I've said so far is the delivery of culturally sensitive services to people in a culturally safe manner. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. Where that happens is understanding the needs and ensuring that people are trained to deliver those services, whether it be in the language, an understanding of the culture, and of course, building that therapeutic alliance of trust. So Ayurveda, for me, is one of those examples where we can look at opportunity. I use another example all the time, land-based healing. So Indigenous people have a very unique way of dealing with their problems, and they have a very unique perspective on life, actually very similar to a lot of the teachings that I was listening to earlier, which is fascinating for me. The importance for them is to maintain our lives in a balance, but to maintain everything in our lives for 7 years. So for 7 generations. So that means whether you are working the land, living on the land, it's important for you to maintain everything in a way that will not disrupt the way of life for 7 generations to come. So working with Indigenous people, I had the opportunity to study land-based healing, and I became certified as a land-based healer as well, because of the fact that I needed to understand how they deal with problems. And you all know that they've had significant issues relating to colonialism and the trauma that's associated with what they went through. And there are many other cultures that have had those issues. And we all know that many of these different cultural groups are overrepresented when it comes to our corrections facilities and the use of our emergency rooms. So how do we fix that? We fix that by understanding the cultural needs. We understand that by ensuring that there are people that are trained to deliver those services to individuals in a culturally safe way. And we learn how to incorporate that into a system where East meets West when it comes to medicine. You know, I talk about all this all the time, that it's strange to me when I started studying psychology. I thought psychology was invented in the West. It's based on individualistic societies. Every culture in Canada, pretty well, comes from a collectivist worldview. So here we are utilizing therapy to help people from a collectivist society that was developed for individualistic societies. We're already starting the wrong way. So to have the opportunity to be here, to meet and to understand a little bit more about Ayurveda, for me is extremely important. Why? Because it's about time we look at the two parts and see how they fit together to ensure that everyone is getting culturally safe and appropriate services to help them be the best person they can be. And I don't believe for a minute that learning land-based healing is going to make me a better person being white. And I don't think learning Ayurveda is going to make me less of a student of Western psychology and the use of Western psychology to help those people that need. We can always take pieces, and you can always maintain fidelity by taking pieces and using them in your practice when you understand what the needs of the individual are, and you focus on their needs as opposed to what you think is the best based on your worldview or how you've been trained. So anyways, I'm all ears. I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon. Thank you very much for having me.
So my name is Suvarcha Pastricha. I'm a psychiatrist, and I run the Women's Inpatient Unit at CAMH. And we are a program that is based on sanctuary model of care through Sandra Bloom. You mentioned therapeutic community. So we are very trauma-focused, dialectic behavior therapy principles, and all the work is done on a biopsychosocial model. So I really just want to take a few minutes to kind of help people understand how we view mental health issues on this biopsychosocial model, so that then we can connect the Ayurveda as the psychosocial aspect of treatment. You all know that we're all born with a temperament, which is very innate, which is very neurological, which is very hormonal. If you see two kids, the one child may be more easy to soothe and the other child may be more irritable. And then comes our early life experiences, adversities that we may go through, how we are parented. Some families are very validating, very nurturing. Some communities are very validating, nurturing. And there may be others that may have very high expectations, or they may be struggling with poverty, divorce, violence. So, like, 1 in 3 Canadian goes through some form of trauma or adversity, and that impacts our formation. Now, mental illness, like heart conditions or lung conditions like diabetes, there's a genetic predisposition. So if I'm under stress and if depression or anxiety disorders run in my family, then on that biopsychosocial model, we understand the evolution of illness, how we handle stress. So biologically, it's the chemical makeup of our brain, our genetic predisposition. If somebody is into addictions, alcohol, the input of biological impact of using substances may impact a person biologically. And then the psychological makeup is one's temperament, personality style, how they cope with day-to-day stress. And the social is the social support network. So on that biopsychosocial, when the stresses, like the pandemic, for instance, right now was a huge stress for everybody, our illnesses can unmask. So for instance, if we just use depression or anxiety disorders as an illness, the treatment is also on that biopsychosocial model. We may use medication, because Dr. Dubey kept saying medication. I mean, there is a role for pharmacotherapy. It's part of the biopsychosocial model. And then the psychotherapy and the psychosocial aspects of care are equally important. So that's how we deliver care in a very holistic manner. And you bring the whole cultural aspect of care to this model, which is equally important. So I think I just wanted to say these words so that people understand that in acute settings, there is a role of pharmacotherapy, and there's a role of whole acute care, which it's like, think diabetes or think high blood pressure, that if you need a medication to help you, you may have to take it, but then also comes the whole managing stress or eating healthy. So think biopsychosocially always. That's really the message I want to convey. And on that note, I will deliver the mic back to Jayanti so she can introduce the main agenda for the day.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Victoria Dubey and I'm a clinical psychologist in Chicago, but I am from here, so I was back to do our 5K this morning. And I'm so happy and honored to be here. I think everything that everyone has said so far is something that I would echo, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time, but I work at a community mental health agency through a university in Chicago, and I help to run our training program. And we work a lot with people who are underinsured and don't have access to mental health care. So a lot of what we were talking about today rings true for the people that I work with. Often I think about stigma. So as we were saying, cultural sensitivity, a lot of different cultures look at mental health differently. And through many different perspectives. And then I also think about accessibility. So who has access to mental health and what kinds of services are we giving? So a lot of what we do at the clinic that I work with is the idea of decolonizing mental health. So looking beyond and expanding beyond the Western approaches. Understanding that there is a place for Western approaches, but how can we integrate and put together different types of mental health. So we can think about nutrition. We can think about community mental health and not just individual mental health. So how can we run groups or connect people back to the places that they're from that they have been so disconnected from? And so we work a lot from a liberation psychology framework, which is something that's rather newer and something that I'm very excited about. And there's some excellent literature on it if anyone wants recommendations. And so for me, being here today and seeing that there's potential for partnership, thinking about the Ayurveda that is going on under Dr. Dubey, and thinking about integrating that into our mental wellness. And as our first speaker so eloquently put, I think it's important to think about mental health, not just what's going on here, but what's going on here and what's going on in our entire bodies, and how can we integrate and pay attention to all three. And so I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for letting me speak for a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Victoria Dubey. And now I'll call Dr. Vera to the microphone to talk about Ayurvedic Shuradhara therapy and maybe the relation of Shuradhara to mental health.
Yeah, thank you, Gandhi. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Minister, for coming here and giving us the time. Thank you, Dr. Dubey. Thank you, Dr. Swarja. And thank you, Rajinder Saini. Today, I want to bring one very important point in notice of Mr. Tibollo, that there are many things beyond tranquilizers, antidepressants, and anti-addiction modern methods. If you look at Ayurvedic literature, let me introduce a few minutes about Ayurveda. And if you look at this slide, there is one word called prajna prad. This is very important for the student and the practitioner. Prajna prad, this is the crux of Ayurvedic psychology. It shows that when you wrongly use your intelligence, then you get mental disorder. This is the basis of Ayurveda. Whenever any person wrongly use their intelligence, they are going to get mental disorder. All anxiety, depression, psychosis, bipolar disease, if you look at the cause is wrong use of your intelligence. It's called prajna prad. This is the one line from Ayurvedic literature. Now, what is Ayurveda? Ayurveda is the oldest medical science in the world. It originated 5,000 years ago in India. Even today it is practiced in India, Sri Lanka, Mauritius as regulated medical system. It is beyond herbal capsules, diets, yoga and luxurious massages. The goal of Ayurveda primary goal of Ayurveda is to help people live long, healthy and balanced lives without need of prescription drugs, complicated surgeries and suffering through painful conditions. The two objectives are there to preserve the health of healthy people and to cure the disease of ill people. So these are very technical things. Like the body is composed of 5 elements, 7 tissues, 3 bioenergies, soul, mind, senses, intellect. Now, coming very important point in Ayurveda, we divide the people into 3 categories based on the bioenergy. We consider there are 3 types of people, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, and similarly there are 3 qualities of the mind that is called Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. This is very important. These 3 qualities of mind determine our behavior, appearance, habits, desire, attitude and general disposition. Like as I mentioned, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, these are the 3 categories of the people. Vata people are generally thin, does not gain weight easily. Their skin is dry, cracked, hair dry. So all these qualities are written. Similarly, Pitta people are medium frame and they prefer cold food, tendency to get loose motion very quickly, excessive thirst, dry eyes, reddish sclera, and they are generally intelligent, sharp memory. And Kapha people have large body frame. So there are 3 kinds of people. Similarly, there are three kind of mental qualities. There are three types of mental qualities. Some people are sattvic in nature, other are rajasic, and third category are tamasic. So, sattvic people are generally truthful, knowledge. Truth is the quality of sattva, knowledge, purity, sanctity, harmony, courage, compassion, forgiveness. These are the qualities of sattvic person. Similarly, rajasic person is associated with attraction and desire. Tamasic person is associated with darkness, inaction, lethargy, lust, delusion, and ignorance. Now, if you look at the causes of mental disorders, in Ayurveda, as I mentioned, first important point is prajnaparat, that means if you use your intelligence wrongly, that can cause mental illness. The second, inability to control emotions, such as if you are unable to control your emotions like lust, anger, grief, delusion, intoxication, envy, pride, arrogance, hatred, pride. So all these emotions, if you are unable to control, they can lead to trouble and they can cause any kind of mental illness. And similarly, some lifestyles, poor interpersonal relationship, lack of physical exercise, physical inactivity and lack of exercises increase tama bhavna in the body. Excessive sleeping, day sleeping may increase tamaguna in the body, and once the person becomes tamas, as I have already explained, those are the qualities which will come into the mind. Inappropriate withholding or initiation of bodily urges. Spending too much time on games, television, parties, social media without doing one responsibilities to self, family, society may reduce the sattvic bhavna in a person. This is very important in today's time. Smoking, use of habit-forming substances, alter the mental harmony, reduce sleep at night, alter the pattern of sleep, and with skipping, sleep at night and day sleeping, unnecessary or excess indulgence, stressful mental and physical activities can cause imbalance of Rajas dosha. So these are the lifestyles, these are the psychological factors, and third is the diet. Some diets also influence your mind. In Ayurveda, we strongly consider whatever you eat, it affects your mind. So tamasic diet, like eating stale food, all food which you know better what is stale food, excessive eating, so unhygienic food, unhygienic cooking habits, skipping meals, these all are tamasic ahar. And similarly, rajasic ahar, caffeinated food, drinks, alcohol, excessive spicy food, and avoiding healthy, nutritious diet, all these type of food or improper diet can disturb your mind and can lead to the feeling of anger, jealousy, cruelty, drowsiness, which further cause mental disorder. So this is very important. Diet also influences your mind. And lot of research is required today what we should eat. If we are eating according to our constitution, according to our profession, then we will be healthy. And similarly, there are other causes. This is the new research. New researches have shown that there is a relationship between gut and brain. Recent studies shows that gut plays an important role in your body's mechanism for maintaining good health. And some researches also show that fruit, vegetables are very good for positive energy. Now there are other causes like psychosomatic disorders. If you are having any bodily disease, it can also lead to mental disorder. Like we have seen currently in current pandemic, we are attending many patients now coming with mental problems because it's a psychosomatic. COVID is also a psychosomatic disorder, and there are many psychosomatic disorders today. From cold to cancer, there are many psychosomatic disorders. So any disease which is present in the body can also disturb the mind. Now, this is the very important point which I am going to highlight. That if the person is person is of Vata constitution, and they consume sattvic or a good diet, then their mental properties will be, they are energetic, creative, adaptive, flexible, strong sense of humanity, quick comprehension, good in communication. But if the Vatic person is consuming a Rajasic diet and Rajasic lifestyles, then that person will be restless, agitated, indecisive, unreliable, anxious, nervous, hyperactive, disturbed. And similarly, if the Vata person is consuming tamasic diet and adopting tamasic lifestyles, that person is going to be depressed, fearful, dishonest, self-destructive, tendency to sexual perversion, mentally disturbed, prone to drug addiction. These lines are written 5,000 years ago in our Vedas. Now the research is required how the diet can influence the mind. We can take insight from here that if a person, typical person, we can easily identify what is the constitution of a person. If we can determine the constitution, then we can also do research. If the person is consuming Vata diet, he is going to have these qualities. And similarly, if the Pitta person is consuming sattvic diet and adopting sattvic lifestyles, that person will be clear, receptive, intelligent, courageous, warm, friendly, having leadership abilities. The same person, if he consumes Rajasic diet, will be ambitious, critical, dominating, aggressive, impulsive, angry, proud. And similarly, if the Pitta person is consuming tamasic diet and adopting tamasic lifestyles, is going to be destructive, criminal, involved in illegal activities. So this is written in our Vedas. But we need to do research how truthful it is. However, we strongly believe that this is truthful information. And similarly, if the Kapha person is sattvic, is going to be peaceful, calm, stable, loving, supportive, and loyal. But the Kapha person, if he is consuming Rajasic diet and adopting Rajasic lifestyles, they are going to be materialistic, attached, greedy, requires comfort and luxury, sentimental. Same person that consuming tamasic diet can be lethargic, dull, weak, insensitive, and apathetic. This is how the mental qualities of the person change with the diet and lifestyles. And we can correct it by regulating the diets and lifestyles. As well as treatment of mental disorders concerned in Ayurveda, there are 3 types of treatments. It's called Yukti Vyapashara Chikitsa. It's very high, it's a technical term, but that means we detoxify the body and then we give certain natural products, and we also recommend certain diets. And there are other ways of treatment like divine and spiritual therapies. We recommend some yoga, meditation, some mantras we advise, and there is one therapy. It is called behavior therapy, or it is called achar. This is very important. This Achar Rasayana is written 5,000 years ago, and even the modern research has shown that this is very effective. These are the points which we recommend in Achar Rasayana to the person who is having mental issues. We tell them always speak truth, control your anger under all circumstances, enjoy sensory pleasures wisely, do not harm others, do not expose yourself to hardships, try to control your passions, be peaceful and pleasing in your speech, meditate every day for tranquility of mind, observe cleanliness in all things, be patient, observe self-control, try to share knowledge and regularly practice charity. Be respectful towards teachers, parents and elders. Be straightforward and kind. Avoid irregularity in daily activities. Behave according to time and place where you are residing. Act always in courteous and polite manner. Control your sense organs. Make habit of doing positive and avoid negative thinking. So these kind of advices we give. This is called Achar Rasayana or a behavior therapy. And lot of research papers are now available on internet where they show that by adopting Achar Rasayana, their anxiety neurosis has been cured. And many people who are having depression, anxiety, other mental disorders like bipolar or psychosis, they were also relieved by merely adopting Achar Rasayana. So these are some research papers which shows these methods are effective and safe. And some of the herbal medicines which are based on Ayurveda nowadays, they are available in Canadian market. These two products are available in Canadian market: Ashwagandha capsule from Vago Natural and Bacopa from Now. They are available in Canadian market, and lot of research has been done on these herbs along with a therapy which is called Shirodhara. Shirodhara is a therapy. Shirodhara is a therapy in which we pour oil on the forehead. I'll just show you one small video which will give you some idea, and then we will demonstrate this technique for the public.
Is an ancient Ayurvedic therapy from India. A Sanskrit word meaning to flow. The oldest holistic healing science in the world. It aims to harmonize the body, mind. It's thousands of years old, but through blissful mind is enduring a renaissance in the West among moderns. Fascinating effects. The power of blissful mind must science of Ayurveda, which asserts the center of the fourth spirituality and healing. Through blissful mind is achieved, creating optimal flow of energy through.
So we'll show you we'll demonstrate this. And if you look at some research papers, there are around 500 research papers available on the PubMed, which shows the efficacy and safety of Shirodhara. I have mentioned two research papers in my slide. Effect of Ayurvedic oil dripping treatment with sesame oil versus warm water on sleep. Patient can sleep on the table. It's so effective. And similarly, the people who are having anxiety and depression, once they get it, they remain normal for a very long period. Just by putting oil in the form of a drip. So this is again a 5,000-year-old technique, but the proper research is now required in the present time. As Dr. Dubey mentioned, if Minister can give us the opportunity to do some research work, we are ready here, we have a center here, we can start the research. And so similarly, this treatment has been found very effective in certain disorders, which are like in hypothyroidism, it has been found very effective. So we'll show the technique. So conclusion is, if the principle of ayurvedic therapy, if implemented properly in our lives, can make us healthy, wealthy and disease-free society. Ayurvedic therapy not only prevents the psychosomatic disorders in first place, but also reverses all stages of psychosomatic disorders. Thank you. Let's show the technique. So before giving Shirodhara, we just give massage. Patrick is a registered massage therapist and he practices as a massage therapist, but he has learned this technique, Shirodhara. There are various liquids which we use to put on the hair. Like there are certain medicated oils in which we boil certain herbs in the oil and we make those oils. There are 7-8 oils which are available here, which we can use for depending upon the constitution of the person and the disease of the person. And by giving massage on the foot and the head, so in Shirodhara we use various liquids, other liquids also, like in some of the cases we use buttermilk. We boil some herbs in the buttermilk and we use that also to give Shirodhara. Because in Ayurveda we consider there are 3 types of bioenergies, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. These energies control our all physiological and pathological functions of the body. So depending upon the constitution and the nature of the disease, we select the liquid. And in some patients we use the oil, in some patients we use the buttermilk as a base, and in some patients we use the decoction of the herbs and we use the water as a base. Can we start this? And when we start the Shirodhara, we take the oil in the machine, medicated oil, then we warm it to the body temperature. There is a heater in this and we have a control of temperature. We warm the oil, then we put the oil in the form of a steam from a particular height, and then oil will be again recollected in the vessel and it's circulated. It is circulated for half an hour on the forehead. And there is also one therapy, we call it Marma therapy. There are certain points in our body. There are 107 points which we stimulate those points. These are called energy points, and we stimulate those points. This is what the Patrick is doing, and we stimulate those points. We channelize the energy before starting the Shirodhara therapy. So it's a cleansing mechanism, but the person after therapy immediately get benefit. In half an hour, patient feels very happy after the treatment.
The can. Gingerly oil could be used. Gently with the fingertip.
Whilst this is in progress, what is the methodology we will use to measure the efficacy of this method? Like, I come in and I'm complaining of this and that. And in order to say it's an effective method, like we have to have a methodology that we're.
Yeah.
And in order to say that we're going to be able to do a research on it, we'd have to design some kind of a.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that we will, I will discuss with Minister sometimes, if Minister will give us the time.
Yeah.
So if we are very much interested to have some research project on this, and we can have integrative research. We have a psychiatrist with us, and I'm an Ayurvedic doctor, we have a team, and if we can make a mechanism, we can start some research. A lot of people are coming here, we can produce a data here. Like we can have both objective and subjective goals.
Mm-hmm. So you have a, like we were talking about medicines, uppers, downers, and giving you tranquil, whatever it is. And then we're saying here's another methodology, another type of treatment, the alternate treatment. So we want to be able to measure that and see how effective it is, and then we'll have to have a cost, of course, and a time, how long it takes you to get.
Just
Where is it go?
And there are 500 research papers already available on this. It's I can make a file, and your department can examine this, because this is a new method here in Canada.
Correct.
But it is definitely different. And whatever I have mentioned here, these all are new things. But here these are new things. But in India they are in practice. They are in practice for the last 5,000 years. We design special diets, we design special lifestyles, and we recommend certain herbs and this therapy, and a lot of people have been benefited, and the benefit is long term. Even we have some research papers which shows that the doses of regular tranquilizers and antidepressant was reduced by giving this method along with the allopathic drugs.
Exactly. So there's a hybrid treatment.
Yes.
About you can a collaborative kind of approach.
Yes,
So we're not discarding one method versus the other,
yes.
but we're looking to see how we can integrate.
But if the patients are benefited, then we can expand it. We can have a first model here, like it's just you can have one model, then we can let one. If it is successful, then we can replicate.
Exactly.
We can open other centers also.
So we'll start to produce like evidential kind of information that you would be looking for. But the big prevention here is that people have to pay for it. And that is like everybody will kind of shy away because the pocketbook that you gotta dig in, all of a sudden is like, just give me this thing that's gonna, give me a quick relief. And this is where, these are more long-term care, and it is a chronic care that when we talk about mental health, right? And these are long-term effects.
We have seen it is very effective even in hypothyroidism. A lot of people who are dependent on thyroxine, they just left and they are now, even after leaving thyroxine for 5 years, all tests are coming normal. Their TSH, T3, T4, all tests are coming normal. So how it is effective, still we don't know, but it is effective. It is in practice. But if we apply modern mechanism, if we do research with modern technology, modern equipments, modern methods, modern biochemistry, modern blood testing, then we can find out that how it is effective, whether it works at the level of pituitary hypothalamus, we don't know. How it is effective, still it's a mystery, but it is very effective. So if we can do research on 100 patients, it will come. And in Japan, they have made, this is a electrical machine. Earlier, it was given manually. We are just taking a pot, hanging it, and we are putting the oil into it and collecting again, putting it. But this is a mechanized machine. In Japan, they have made a robotized Shirodhara machine. They have made a robot.
Correct.
So it's expensive, but it is very effective. These research papers from Japan are also available on the net. They found it is very effective.
And I'm asking questions because I don't know the answers, so I'm asking. The thing is, I come in and I say, I have this and that, whatever, and pain and everything, but it's very subjective evidence. Is there going to be a way that we could be able to measure this, like a computerized method?
Yeah, computerized, we can have EEG,
things.
yeah, we can have EEG, we can have various blood tests, we can have blood tests, we can have EEG changes, we can, from the history, we can, like, the patient is lying here, when she will woke up, then she will tell how she was feeling.
Yeah, that's a feeling, subjective.
That is, yeah, yes please.
Subjective.
Yes please.
Yeah, just to what Mrs. Secretary is saying, what I'm gathering from you, it doesn't seem to be like it's research you're looking to do. Research, the evidence is there, this works. I think what you're looking to do is to gather the data and get patients in and run it through analyticals to give us, to demonstrate that it is actually working.
Yes, yes.
Right, so I think it's a proven methodology already.
Actually, we are,
One is that we need access,
yeah,
and people will not come because they have to pay for it,
Correct.
right? So if there's a way for us to subsidize that cost,
yes.
so we can get patients to come in, and then we have the methodology to gather the data and run the analytics
Yes.
in order to demonstrate that what we know, if there is evidence that it's working, and then we could use that basically to spread it across the medical and the healthcare system to show that the intervention does not always have to be pills and tablets and all of these things.
They're alternatives.
There's some natural alternatives.
Yes.
It's all statistical. It'll be statistical evidence. We'll take a population of people. We will say what are the effective it was, and I think that's the modeling we're trying to. In our research method, that's what we're trying to do.
Actually, I am from a traditional science.
Correct.
This is a traditional method. Now, society wants evidence, society wants evidence, the safety studies, everything. So if we can collaborate modern science and the traditional science, we can bring a new research, new science to the people. This is the whole objective. So there's a need now for integration. If we can integrate modern science and the traditional science, then new things will come up, and of course there is a track record of 5,000 years,
Correct,
and this is in practice. And already 5,500 papers of modern research are available on the net. It's not that it's a very new technique, it's an old technique, but it needs to be studied in light of modern science.
Right, and I would say, in a context of the Canadian, North American approach, so
Yes.
that, because this, I don't want to use the word of market, this is where this is who we are trying to treat, right?
Yes.
So we need to bring it so it's understandable
Yeah.
in this method.
So-
I just want to ask the minister one question. What is fidelity? You spoke about something about fidelity.
So a treatment modality is usually laid out.
Oh, modality.
Yeah, modality of treatment
Okay.
will have a structure that you're supposed to do certain things. So to maintain fidelity to that program, then you follow that particular modality. If you start mixing pieces from here and from there, then you lose that fidelity. And so the question then becomes, how do you measure the outcome of that treatment?
Yeah.
So it's just.
So that's what you're trying to say, we developed a procedure, a
Well-
very standard procedure.
Our healthcare system here, especially when it comes to mental health, focuses on fidelity to the modality of treatment. So funding is given to organizations if they're providing confirmation that they're being that they're following the programs as they're established.
Right.
They all do, but that's not the question. The
Right.
question is efficacy
Correct,
of the
yeah.
program.
Yes.
So for me, you can be, so there's fidelity here to
Yeah.
the methods that have been used for 5,000
Correct,
years.
yes.
Now the question is, what is the efficacy of this treatment?
And that was my first
For
question, how do
individuals.
we measure the efficacy of whatever we're gonna
It'll
do?
be interesting. I'm interested in the papers to see
Yes.
to see the papers that have
I'll
been written,
I'll
because
send you.
there should be
Yes,
in
yes.
those papers and
Yes.
that body of
Yes,
knowledge.
yes,
The efficacy should be described
Yes.
as you know,
Yes.
what this particular modality of treatment impacts on,
yes,
and how many people it works. So
Yes.
you're right, when you build a study, you have to have a control group.
Correct.
You have to have a group that is being provided that support or that treatment. Then you should have another one that is provided all the different available treatments,
Correct.
excluding the
This
one that
one,
you're
yeah.
testing.
Yeah.
And so now you have one with no treatment, one with treatment, but not this.
yes.
And what is this doing to improve
Right.
the outcome of the treatment? And
That's the
establishes
efficacy.
efficacy.
Yeah, that's the efficacy, and that's where I would say that
Yeah.
those are the drivers we have to use in order to,
Yeah.
and that's the research that we're trying to approach to. Or, as Dr. Dubey was saying or whatever, it is where, how do we attract that population? And where do we get the funding? Because we do a lot of free stuff here, a lot of free
Yeah,
stuff.
so
Free food, free
the way I would
free
see this,
medication, free yoga.
I'm doing a lot of work in indigenous communities, and we're working on land-based healing. So land-based healing, a lot of people will say, well, what exactly is it? Because it's not really well known. So we know it works because we've seen outcomes from it. So there's people that have started measuring, I think you may be further ahead in terms of this type of
exactly.
modality of treatment. And I believe in alternatives. One size doesn't fit all. I've seen situations where, I'll give you the example. We brought a program into Ontario called structured psychotherapy. It's free CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, to anyone who needs it over the age of 18. And so you get 16 free treatments paid for by OPIL. But I went to England and studied the system that we copied in Ontario, and the doctors that put it together said, well, its efficacy is 60 to 70%. So I came back to Ontario and I said, excuse me, but why are we providing this important service if it's only good for 60% of the population? And if it doesn't work for the other 40%, what are we doing to help them? So I started studying another modality of treatment that is, it's foundational because it's basically Freudian, but what it's called is intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy. And it allows the clinician to build a therapeutic alliance in 1 or 2 sessions. Freudian psychology, it's not practiced as much anymore because it takes years to build a therapeutic alliance. It takes years to see. But this method has been shown to be extremely effective for individuals who are resistant to CBT. So I've been asking the question, well, why aren't we introducing this as well? The thing is that we have to get one right before we can get to the next one. But I would see this as a possible alternative or a possible method of treatment for specific mental health issues. So if it works for anxiety and depression, does it work for moderate, acute? Does it work for, so we need to, that's what we
So that's where we need to understand where our population, like have those 3 types or whatever it is, moderate or mild or.
Then what I typically do, because there's not always data to support the things that I want to do, I don't believe in, the 4 corners of the page. I believe that we have to look at both sides.
Scattergraph.
So what I would do is I'd say, let me do a pilot project, make an investment that then will be reviewed so that we actually have measures from its success or failures. And then from there, I can say, okay, well, this is working.
Correct.
And so this is what I did with the youth wellness hubs, for instance. We started off with 4. I've now opened 22. I'm opening another 6. There's 28 of these to help youth in the province of Ontario have a safe space to get supports. But that's the other way to go, is to start with a pilot project.
And that is where Dr. Verma and I were talking, it's like, we've got an ideal setup here. The ideal setup is just, we started off with a temple, like we talked to people, he talked about the values, the anger, the different things. The mind has to be sort of geared towards what I would say a high value approach to life. Then we want to make sure that our food is also consistent for lifestyle changes. Then now we've got the meditation and yoga, we've got that. Then Dr. Dubé has introduced recently in his service a medical corner where he's advocating, like, not throw away the drugs, but guys start eating properly. And this is where you go for the good foods, not these, anything packaged, you will tell people don't eat it because it will cause certain behavior, right? So what I'm saying, we've got like so many of those pieces parts here already. Then we invested in the yoga, the Ayurvedic clinic. And as we said, Dr. Verma started off, it was free. When it was free, he was working hard. The moment we said, you've got to pay something, suddenly the patients either got better or they're not coming at all, And that's the key thing here, is I think we're losing people through the cracks because we are not getting support.
Well, the first thing is give me access to as much literature as possible. I do read it because I am interested. I do have a clinical mind and understand. So I would like to read it personally, and then what I will do, I had asked for a briefing from the ministry when I first met you on that Zoom call. Then we had an election, so I've never gone back, but I will look at it again with the ministry, see where they are, and you may have to do a presentation.
Yes, of course.
But I would love to see a pilot at least, or maybe use this clinic as the pilot.
This is where we would really, really like to position ourselves, because I mean, if you come here last week, we had a festival, and there were droves of people that walked through here. Well, it was free food, it was free entertainment, it was free tickets, it was free everything. Guess what? We got great turnout. But this temple has been attractive, you know, we're, I wouldn't even say we're zero profit, we're, you know, more contribution, we have a lot of contribution, people are just digging deep in the pockets and trying to build this community, and we want to help the community. And this is where I'm saying, I mean, yeah, you'll probably say that I'm speaking because I'm here. I don't have a role here really technically, no official role. But what we are doing here is we're creating that environment that we care, we really care. And as Dr. Verma was saying, if you approach medicine with a wrong intention, you'll never get good results. We feel that we're following that Ayurvedic principle. We're approaching it because we want to heal you, we want to care for you. And this is why, you know, this is the whole thrust of this.
And we have a center here. Can we show you?
I mean, let's try just give you
Here in this room.
this here.